Agilicis helps the gaming industry realize its full potential through exceptional technology that goes beyond what other tech providers have trained hospitality to expect. We built our state-of-the-art hospitality-focused software for continuous innovation, industry-leading data sharing, maximum flexibility for best-of-breed performance, and smooth ecosystem integration, and an always learning guest profile engine so you can create personal experiences. It's time for hospitality to go beyond with technology from Agilicis.
So today we're here with Jeff Rogers, the founder of Big Green IT, which was recently acquired. We know our audience loves a successful entrepreneurial story, but especially keen to learn the life after acquisition and what is next for you. So thank you for joining us today, Jeff. Are you ready to have some questions fired at you?
Absolutely. Thank you, Katie. Thank you for having me today on this podcast interview. I
Yeah, of
appreciate it.
course. So let's get rolling. First question is going to be, can you tell us about your background and how that led to you starting Big Green IT?
Okay, sure. I'll try to be brief, but yeah, I have a degree in industrial engineering from Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo, and engineering was what I thought I was going to do my whole career. And I started teaching AutoCAD classes right out of college, and someone about 3 months into it said, "You shouldn't be teaching this. You should be selling this." And all of a sudden, that started me on a 35-year path of high-tech sales. So kind of rounded it through a weave through Silicon Valley, working with Sun Microsystems, then working with a value-added reseller, we called it in the day of VAR. Ended up starting, did a little bit of work in the casino gaming industry, 2000 to 2005, and then started my first company, Steelhead Data, in 2005. Sold that in 2011. And when we started Big Green IT, we knew that we wanted to do something a little bit different, and started that company with just two people, myself and my brother, and went from there.
And can you walk us through the company's history and how it's evolved over time?
Yeah, that's kind of where I kind of dropped that one off there, because I knew we'd segue into where we go from, what was the whole Big Green IT journey, which is much more recent, much more interesting. But started the company based on what we had done in the past, and that was data center backgrounds, meaning that we weren't working with cloud yet. We weren't working with those things. We're talking 12 to 13 years ago now. We knew that we wanted to be in a business that created some recurring revenue, so it had some value at the end, which is interesting. You learn along the way about valuations and so forth. So we started down that path. We did sell and still do a lot of hardware, a lot of storage, a lot of virtualization. And that's probably was a great starting point for us, because the VMware and virtualization was still a big topic. It still is today, but back then we're still moving into that. And then around 2017 or so, I'm going to say 6 or 7 years ago now, we had an opportunity to really partner with Microsoft in their new partnering realm. I, at one point in time, said I'd never touch it with a 100-foot pole, because it was so difficult to traverse, and margins and all of the other things. But with the new CEO, they changed that. We had an opportunity to not just get in with Microsoft, but get in and have a seat at the table with them. And when I say a seat at the table, we kind of morphed into it's 40,000 partners in the United States. There's about 900 that are direct with Microsoft. We're one of those 900. And then of that, there's about 200 that are managed partners by Microsoft, very small group. And we're probably the smallest of that little group, and we're managed by Microsoft as well. So that's how we kind of came through to build out the company, and we can go from there.
Definitely. And what drove your thought process on the Big Green IT acquisition after all of the history you've had with the company?
Sure. Well, I have to say that when the company came around that eventually acquired us, we were not for sale. We weren't interested. We were doing just fine. I had about 30 employees and a lot of great clients, probably in the neighborhood of 350 to 400 at the time. And so I said no. And I didn't know I was negotiating when I said no, because I said no a second time and it came back a little bit more. And then it hit me that I was 60 years old, and thought, why not? And that was part of it. But really, for me, there was a couple of big drivers. One was if we were not going to be acquired, we were going to have to go out and really build out a managed services organization. We were going to have to be deeper into a security organization. AI wasn't a consideration quite yet a couple of years ago, so I didn't have to think about that.
Mhm.
So when we decided that an acquisition was appropriate, it was not just to cash out, so to speak, of the work that we had done for the last 12 years. It was so that we could grow and we could add in those resources without having to acquire them ourselves. So that was
Definitely.
the primary drivers.
And was it a bittersweet moment once you realized you were going to go through with it?
Yeah, I don't think anybody would say otherwise, right? I
Mhm.
mean, I guess maybe there's a rare occasion where somebody's like, "Thank goodness I'm done
Yeah.
with it." But for me, it's bittersweet because I'm a people person. We grew from, like I said, 2 employees to 30 employees. You know everybody's families. You know all the ins and outs of things, and also it's kind of, you've heard this term before, but it's kind of your baby. You grew it to where it is, and it
Mhm.
matured, and so forth. So the sweet part is I think that it found a good home for the company and the employees. The bitter part is, I really like what I'm doing and or have been doing, and yeah, I think that's the best way to put it.
Yeah, definitely. And during the acquisition process, were there parts that surprised you going through it?
Yes, I will have to, and this is, anybody who's been through this before will know exactly what I'm talking about. I had no idea that the words due diligence meant basically giving up about 3 to 4 months of your life to do nothing but talk to accountants and CPAs and bookkeepers, and more importantly, lawyers for 3 to 4 hours a day, 7 days a week. So yeah, there's some things that definitely surprised me, and I can provide some wisdom to that if anybody wants it going forward that hasn't been through that process.
Definitely. And what is your hope for Big Green IT under this new ownership?
Well, fortunately, the company that had purchased us, SourcePass, based out of New York, they have been on a business of growing and acquiring managed services companies. Big Green IT has not been a pure managed services play. And so, therefore, even during the acquisition and post acquisition, they kind of kept us independent. We finally do have a sourcepass.com email address after a year and a half, but
Mhm.
we still run autonomously as our own business, and that it kind of makes it nice. We have the resources to pull in from SourcePass, but at the same time, we kind of get to still run as our own autonomous solution, and especially focused on the Microsoft world.
Definitely. And can you discuss any plans for expansion or growth in the future?
Let's see, what NDAs am I under that yeah, I mean, I'll say this. Well, I was going to use the word generically. It's not necessarily generic, but SourcePass as an organization just made its 13th acquisition in the last 18 to 24 months. So there is growth through acquisition. The acquisitions, except for Big Green IT, had been mostly in that pure MSP space. And I see now the growth and acquisitions in the future, including what everybody would expect, more security,
Mhm.
some AI development, and things like that.
Definitely. And what is the thing you are going to miss most about Big Green IT?
Um, what am I going to miss the most? I think that I miss our frog because I
Where did
love
the
how.
frog logo come from? That is
Here,
my next
here's one of my hats
question.
right here. I'll give everybody a visual. Most people have seen this, but anyway, yeah, I'll go back to what I'll miss, and then I'll touch on your second question there, Katie.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's because you create this iconic look and feel that people can identify with. I mean, at Microsoft, it got to the point where all they wanted to know is if they could have one of our hats or have one of our things that had the frog on it. So there's that identification. I learned that a long time ago, that it's really important to have that identification, that people can just see and know who you are just by a logo or something like that. And as far as the frog goes, when we started Big Green IT, I thought we were going to take advantage of green technologies.
Mm.
So, lower cost of electricity to run certain storage systems, all these different things. And I saw a frog, not the one we have now, but kind of a frog as a green symbol. And then it just so happened I was in Costa Rica right before, well, maybe we'd already started it. We got that, but right in the beginning, I was in Costa Rica, and here was this frog all over the place with these orange feet and so forth. And so I came back and gave my marketing person, I said, here's some ideas. And she went to town and came up with the frog that we have. And now we have it plastered on just about everything you can think of, including at one point in time, I think we had about 5 or 6 Teslas all the employees shared at Big Green IT with frogs on the hood and on the side. So anyway, that's the history of the frog, and the frog will live on forever somehow.
Yes, the iconic frog for
Yes.
sure. And how do you want to be remembered in terms of a legacy at Big Green?
Um, you know, I knew you were going to ask that question, so I kind of gave that some thought. And you go through the philosophical, oh, I want to be remembered for this and that. But I think the main thing is that, and I'm pretty proud of it, is that I provided a really, really good work-life balance. We worked hard. People would work on the weekends, but there was a time when we were a little bit smaller, 10 or 12 employees, we get a bonus check from one of our vendors. Let's say it was Hewlett Packard, and they sent this check for something we did, and we just closed the company down for 5 days, and we all went to Hawaii. so, so that balance, but we worked hard to get that. And so we did those things. And then the other thing is not even that long ago, even at 26 employees, I think it was, when we reached a number that we had in mind, we took the company and their spouses all to Disneyland. And we played hard for 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and came back to work on Monday. And I think that most people, if they look back on who they worked for or what they did in their career, will remember that it was important to keep a solid work-life balance and remember that everybody contributes to the success. It's not just, I just provide some vision and then the people execute it. So they're as important as I am.
Definitely. Yeah. Work hard, play hard.
Yeah, abs 100%.
And looking back on running the company, how would you describe your leadership style and how it contributed to the success of Big Green IT?
Yeah, my leadership style is a plus and a minus sometimes. The plus is that, like I said, I'll pick out the vision, what I believe where things are headed from experience or from discussion and so forth. I tend to be very opportunistic. I had a different word earlier. It was opportunism. I made something up. But anyway, the idea is that really keeping an idea that the people that work with me and for me would know that I've got an eye on things, that if I'm saying, I think this is where we need to pivot to, that this is where we're going to head, that they trust that. And for me, that's, I think the leadership part of it is making choices and also willing to go backwards, meaning that that wasn't quite what we expected. Let's go back and focus on a different area. So knowing my leadership style is to have people do what they say that they can do and provide them with the tools, provide them with access to me on a regular basis, and let them do their work. And that's the style I've had that's contributed to, works well in a small business. Sometimes you get a little bit bigger. It's a little more difficult when you've got to have some more accountability, so to speak, that's defined. But in a small and growing company, I think that that leadership style worked well.
Definitely. And can you speak to what you consider your greatest strengths and weaknesses?
Sure. That's always a tough one to be self-critical, right? But strengths are probably that I've always got a very glass half full attitude towards things. Optimism, once again, about how things are going. It's a strength to be able to lead people by example, not lead by the carrot and the stick methodology necessarily. And probably that leads to one of my weaknesses, which I don't know if it's a weakness or not, but I've been told it and that is I'm a people person, so it's difficult for me to let people go. I
Mhm.
just expect them to be able to do the work that they claim that they can do. And when it doesn't work out, it's sometimes I'll provide always a second chance, but then I get stuck on a third and fourth chance because I'm a people person. So some people see that as a weakness, and I don't know. I'll live with that if that's my weakness.
Yeah, definitely can play both ways.
Yes.
And who or what inspired you most personally and in your career?
Let's see. Personally, and I don't want to say this sound too cliche-ish, but personally, it was my dad. He was an engineer by trade, so I thought I was following in those footsteps. He was a person that enjoyed going out and doing things and seeing the world, and probably instilled that work-life balance in me. Professionally, and I did get a glance at some of your questions, so I know that the next one has to do with mentoring. So
Yep.
so it's kind of like those are a little bit combined of who inspired me in my career versus who's a mentor, because I think those are very similar. So I think I'll kind of roll into that. So
Yeah.
I had two. I really thought about this, and and sometimes it just comes down to a few words that someone might have said or given you along the way. One of them I'll mention by name. I worked for a company right after with the Sun Microsystems, a company by the name of Avcom Technologies in the Silicon Valley. It is not in existence today, but at the time, largest partner in the world for Sun Microsystems, and their founder was Brad Bishop. And Brad very much instilled in me that relationship building and relationships with both clients, which I relish to this day, and relationships with vendors, with the vendor reps, with the vendor management, and what makes them work. And if anything, he was also the one that taught me that work-life balance and taking care of your people and going and doing things that are memorable. You may not remember your week at work, but if you remember 10 years ago when you went to Disneyland because the company took you, you'll remember that, and put a smile on people's face. So that was one. The second one is an M&A merger and acquisition specialist out of Chicago. Been a friend for a very long time. He's probably 20 years older than I am. His name is Cayman Flannery. I'll mention him by name. And he was more of a mentor towards building companies. And once I decided to go out on my own and um, uh, actually think about how to run a company, and his two things were: once you think you know what you want to do, think bigger than that. And the other one he always said was, remember, Jeff, equity is a lot easier to give away than it is to get back. And that one really stuck with me, because in the beginning, sometimes you don't have a lot to work with to attract people or to do certain things or get capital, and you need to give away equity in exchange for that. But it's always a lot easier to give away than it is to get back. So those are a couple of my mentors. I'm sure there's many others along the way, but those were a couple I thought of.
Definitely. And what were the big decision points and when did they hit during the life cycle of Big Green IT?
Ooh, big decision points. Okay. The biggest probably decision point was what to do with our Microsoft relationship. I'm fortunate that I was in a mentor, no, what do you call it? A peer group. I happen to call Alliance of CEOs, but peer group, and I was able to run this question by them. We had an opportunity when we had around 10 to 12 employees. We were doing fine. We had about 20 to 30 customers, a lot of those in the gaming space, and we were just doing projects and selling things and so forth. But Microsoft liked the area that we worked in and started giving us leads: 10 leads a month, 30 leads a month, all of a sudden 100 leads a month, all of a sudden 400 leads a month. And I didn't know what to necessarily do with this. Do I filter through this and just kind of pick and choose one or two of them? Or do I just go for it? And the advice that I got at the time, which, go for it, comes with money too, because you have to hire more people and invest more capital, but was to go out and do this land grab. And anybody that's listening to this, who's an IT person that knows they went through a transformation from Exchange on premise or on property to Office 365, Well, we were right in the middle of that. And so it had to make a big decision. Did I take the profitability of the company and plow it all in, or did I stay more secure in that? And we made, as it turned out, the right choice, thank goodness. And that was to turn to Microsoft 100% and dump everything we had into it, because that ended up being the right thing at the right time.
Definitely. And do you think customer behavior is changing? And if so, what is or was the adaptation strategy for you?
Yeah, customer behavior changing. One of the biggest is what we're doing right now. We're having a Zoom call, so to speak,
Yeah.
right? And the change, I think the change was inevitable anyway, and that was that we would have more Zoom or Teams. We use Teams a lot, more meetings virtually. It just was, you could put them on the calendar easier. You could incorporate people from different areas, and it was happening. But as soon as COVID came around, it accelerated all of that. It not only accelerated, but it made it the norm, the accepted way. This is the way that we have meetings. This is the way we do things. So I think that when we talk about customer behavior or even our own, it's that change from doing everything that we could to be in person to do everything we can to not be in person. And that to me is difficult, because for me personally, and I know a lot of people that have an engineering background, I'd rather be in front of a client, and I used to bring my own whiteboard pens because the ones in their rooms are always dried out. So I would be up there drawing on the whiteboard and drawing out a solution. And you just can't get that same interaction today. But you have to accept that that's the way the clients are now buying. Clients are buying things technology wise that used to be difficult and complicated. Now they're considered commodities. You go out and buy VMware. VMware used to be this thing that you had to understand, people with it and people that knew how to run it. And now it's just licenses. It's just commodity. And that's another thing that changes over time, is making sure you continue to find the right solutions that really need a solution to it, that really need a team of people to deploy it and to train it and make it work. But that's the main thing that I think has changed a lot with customer behavior, is just the commodity part of it and the way we do business.
Definitely. And for our owners and operators out there, what insights can you share regarding how you led your team to such success?
Okay. Um, I think it's giving the employees the right tools. If it's marketing, giving them the right budget so they can go out and nurture these leads that are coming in, if they were like they were in our case. It's giving the salespeople enough bandwidth to be able to handle all of the incoming opportunities. It's giving the engineers the right training, making sure that they have time to go to their certifications. Sometimes we need those certifications to have the right level of partnerships with our vendors, but at other times it's for their own edification, so they can do their job and feel successful out at a client site. So I think that that's probably the biggest thing, is making sure that all of the elements of your business have the tools they need to succeed. I'll give a very small one. That's a great example. By selling a lot of equipment, there's a lot of maintenance agreements that come with these things, and they're annual and they expire annually. So we have one person that works on basically just renewals for whether it's Cisco or HPE or VMware or any of those. And we got a tool. It was only, I forgot, it was fairly inexpensive. Let's just say it was $50 a month. But that tool now allows that person in that role to be the most successful they can, because they can put in all of the trigger dates, all of the contract numbers, and it reminds them to remind the client, and it makes them more successful. So anything we can do top to bottom, not just in one area, but throughout the company, to make sure there can be success.
Definitely. And now let's get to the fun part. Let's talk about your life after Big Green. So you sold
Okay.
your company. What did you go to Disneyland? What was your big hurrah after you?
Well, I love that question. And the big hurrah, that's funny you said Disneyland, and we haven't even talked about that uh, because that's exactly where we went.
Oh
So
my
it
gosh.
wasn't like Tom Brady winning the Super Bowl and going, well, where are you going to go now? I'm going to Disneyland. But, if they would have had a camera, that might have been what it was like. Myself and my family were actually big Disney fans. Even though we live in Northern California, we have annual passes. So, yeah, yes, we did go to Disneyland. That was a good potential. I know you were fishing for it for a different reason, but and then for me personally, it was I'm not one of these who go out and buy a lot of things and do a lot of stuff like that for myself. However, I am a sailor, and I did go purchase a sailboat, which is down in San Diego. I'm headed there in 3 days to go for a sail to Baja California, Mexico, and back. So that was probably the big thing that I did for myself as a future. Um, and hopefully, although it hasn't happened yet because I'm still doing a lot of consulting and still working for SourcePass as such, and that's to go out and play a lot more golf around the country, get to see some of my
Yeah.
casino friends in different parts of the different states in the United States, and hit them up and see if we can get out and hit the golf ball.
Yeah, hit the greens.
Yes, absolutely.
And how do you foresee the future with AI in our personal and professional lives over the next decade with how rapidly it's been infiltrating the industry?
Hmm. I thought you said this came from the fun part. So, all right. Well, let's talk AI. AI is one of those things we could have an entire interview session just on that, and it's because, if let's just say 6 or 8 years ago you asked 10 people what the cloud was, you'd probably get 10 different answers.
Mhm.
It's the same thing with AI right now. You ask 10 different people what AI means to them, you'll get 10 different answers. For me personally, I think it's going to be continuing to at least have a pulse on the industry, what happens, but for me, other than, chat GPT and a couple of browser AI functionalities, I'm not going to delve too far into that as far as my life goes until things are presented to me that are just AI driven that way. You've done a Google search, I'm sure, recently, and instead of just coming up with all the pages, the first thing it comes up with now is its AI, co-pilot type answer of what it thinks you're actually looking for. So those types of things I can see in personally. Business wise, this is what I've been telling people, and it for the last 2 years, and it still holds true today. If you're a small company and you think you want to integrate AI into your business, AI is basically looking at lakes of data. It's looking at whatever you give it to see and coming up with the best response based on the story you put together or you're asking it. So most small companies don't have a dev team. They don't have a team that's going to go out and make all of this work. So my suggestion is, and it's coming from everywhere now anyway, is look at the line of business applications that you have and look at what they're doing for AI. They're the ones that can spend tens of thousands or millions of dollars on developing AI modules for your line of business software. And it's going to work and do hopefully what your business is requiring you to do. So I think that's, if I was to give some, words of wisdom, and I do have this discussion with people a lot, it's if you're a big enough company that contains enough data, and the gaming space has a lot of that,
Mhm.
you may be using stuff from your vendors that are out there, but you also may be developing your own. You want your proprietary type of stories and so forth. So I could see that happening where you have a big enough team to be able to, and enough data to crawl through that you would do your own. But if you're a small business and you don't have that luxury, then utilize what the other manufacturers, especially software people, are putting together for you.
Definitely. And we know you're trying to enjoy your post-acquisition period, doing some resting, but could you give us a hint on where we're going to find you in a year or so from now?
A year from now, that's a good question. I'll give you a little wider range. I'll say somewhere in 1 to 3 years from now. Uh,
Perfect.
1 to 3 years from now, me personally, you'll probably have to contact me through Starlink as I'm sailing my boat around the world. Um, I may be doing some consulting, but once again, it's when I'm in port and my Starlink is connecting and I can do some consulting for everyone. And for me personally, that's just the direction I had. It's really difficult, and it's already been difficult to, and anybody who's been through this before, if you've been doing something for 30 or 35 years, to just turn it off. I tried. I went for a 2 week wellness retreat to Bali not too long ago. It kind of worked, but still, it's in the blood and it's difficult to turn off. So I think there'll be a good mix of doing those things that we all picture of doing, perhaps in retirement, and at the same time trying to hone down and focus in some of the areas where I think that there's some expertise I could still lend to people in the IT space and especially in the gaming area as well.
Perfect. Well, thank you for joining us, Jeff. This was an amazing interview, and I can speak from everyone at GNL. We just love having you on. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate that. And I think one of the other things in 1 to 3 years you're going to see me at is the GNL roundtable giving
Yep.
away those crazy prizes at the end of the golf tournament. Jeannie won't let me get out of that. So whether I'm doing it with a business sponsorship or just doing it to be part of the team, you'll see me out there.
Definitely. And we're always glad to have you.
All right. Well, thank you for having me, Katie, today. This went very well. I appreciate the time.
Yeah, thank you. We had a great time.
With over 50 years global experience, BPOS delivers comprehensive point-of-sale solutions tailored for casinos, powered by a robust enterprise platform with all the integrations you need, from player rewards, PMS, and camera systems to business intelligence and more. BPOS seamlessly connects your operations. Our solutions cover point-of-sale systems, online ordering, self-serve kiosks, mobile ordering, pay at table options, QR code ordering, KDS, inventory management, enterprise reporting, and beyond. Backed by exceptional US-based customer service and support, we ensure your casino's operations run smoothly and efficiently.